Today we preview our matchup with the Texas Stars and an interview with Steven Meserve from 100 Degree Hockey.
Welcome to the Griffins Pipeline Podcast.
Welcome back to the Griffins Pipeline Podcast. We are a podcast brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network, and we are sponsored by DraftKings. I'm one of your hosts, Connor.
And I'm the other host, Kyle. We're a show brought to you by the fans for the fans. We are not partnered with the Red Wings or Griffins. We just bring you the show as a fan perspective on some really good hockey that we get to watch down here in Grand Rapids. So, kicking off the season in Texas.
Yep, a big revenge game. Texas knocking the Grand Rapids Griffins out of the playoffs last year in a dramatic game. Do or die game for the Griffins, going into double overtime, very long game. So Griffins will be coming for blood.
Yeah. So we got Grand Rapids versus Texas in Texas. It'll be October 10th and 11th. Both games will be 8 p.m. games.
Yep, and the next weekend, the home opener will be the 17th and the 18th versus the Manitoba Moose. So a couple little things in the news real quick before we get into the Steven Meserve interview. So we have Dominic Shine named captain of the Grand Rapids Griffins. Something that should have happened a long time ago, but it's finally happened. Amazing to see. Everyone's wanted him to be captain.
Yeah, well deserved. Nobody more than him. And we'll get into it with Steven Meserve too about how he really deserves it. So, and then we gotta mention the three kids that made the roster for the Detroit Red Wings that will not be playing for the Grand Rapids Griffins. So we got Michael Bransig-Nygaard, Axel Sandin Pellikka, and Emmett Finney, all making their debut for the Detroit Red Wings Thursday night. So congratulations to them. Unfortunately for us, we don't get to see them, but we'll have a loaded roster with veterans, including Justin Hall. So
yeah, I mean, it's a tough scramble for Dan Watson. You know, you got three key components you think you're going to have for the year, and you lose all three of them. You know, you're thinking maybe you'll lose one or two of them. But yeah, tough challenge for Dan Watson. We can see what he does to rebound from that. And we're going to have more of a veteran roster, like Kyle said, and that's actually kind of more of a recipe for the AHL because your best dudes don't get called up when you really need them. You kind of have your core there, and that's what wins you championships. So hopefully it's a good thing, not a bad thing. And you'll probably likely see a rotation of these guys because you got Carter Mazur and Nate Danielson, who's injured, and Shai Boom also on the defensive side. So a lot of movement could be happening. You know, you could see Danielson come back, stay in the Red Wings actually, or start on the Griffins because he's injured. You never know, but it might kick one of those guys down. And then you got Carter Mazur competing for the spot also up there. So some solid dudes, solid rotation of dudes to call up, and I think that's what you'll see.
yeah, and it'll be good too. And one other thing we got to mention here is the Griffins signed Tyler Engel to a 1-year deal, player out of the DEL. So very interested to see what we can get out of a forward Tyler Engel. So that being said, we'll get into this interview with Steven Meserve from 100 Degree Hockey and preview our matchup versus Texas Stars for the season. And before we do that, we'll dive into DraftKings. So we'll catch you on the other side.
NFL fans, what's your favorite touchdown? For me, it's the next one. Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. From first-time touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. Here's the best part. Bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Maybe you're just getting that feeling that Jared Goff is going to throw Amon-Ra St. Brown that next touchdown. Or maybe you think that Detroit defense is going to stack up against the Joe Burrow-less Bengals. If I had that feeling, I'd take that to DraftKings Sportsbook. And don't forget, you can bet on the Griffins too. Your team hitting pay dirt pays out to you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Minimum minus 500 odds required. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see bkng.co/audio.
So here on the podcast today, we have Steven Meserve. He's from 100 Degrees Hockey. How are you doing today, Steven?
Doing well. I'm doing well down here in Austin, Texas, Cedar Park, which is where the Texas Stars play.
Nice.
Awesome. It's been a long summer. Hockey's back. I'm really excited. You know, it's like 4 days away, 3 days away.
Yeah, it's of course, Texas Stars versus Grand Rapids Griffins. It's been a longer summer for some than others.
Yep.
The Texas Stars didn't have quite as long of a summer going into the Western Conference Final against Abbotsford. But as I was telling you guys off air, I spent a good portion of my day today at the rink with Media Day with the Texas Stars as they get ready to play Grand Rapids on Friday. And any day you could spend a couple hours at the rink talking to guys and just hearing the sights and sounds of hockey is a good day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really excited for hockey to be back. Obviously, we have the Griffins versus the Stars this weekend, a 2-game matchup. And that's why we wanted to talk to you, kind of give us the heads up. What's going on with the Stars? What's changed from last season when we met you? You were the team that knocked us out. So good to keep your enemies close, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
But
Texas,
before
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but before we get into that, let's talk about you real quick. What 100 Degree Hockey is and your relation with the Stars and how you got into it.
Yeah, I mean, 100 Degree Hockey is an independent site that covers the Texas Stars. We've actually covered it since 2009, which was the first year that Texas was a team at all. And that was the year when they surprised everyone and went all the way to the Calder Cup final, losing to Hershey. They had Jamie Benn in the lineup, who is now a certified NHL veteran, but he was a rookie that year and got sent down just for the playoffs. My journey was I was a season ticket holder. And right around November, December of that first year, I discovered that the local media wasn't really going to cover the team. This local paper hadn't sent anybody since the opening game. And that was around the same time that SB Nation had come on the scene. I saw what those guys were doing, covering the NHL, specifically Brandon Worley and defending Big D. And I said, I think I can do that. I think I can, provide some level of coverage. And so completely out of the blue, I asked the PR guy to start sending me press releases. And I give him full credit. Guy's name is Josh Fisher. And he said, sure. Because, all he had to do was add my email address to the end of the press release list. And through the course of the season, I wrote about the team. And by the time they made it to the Calder Cup finals, I was interviewing players down the tunnel and participating in press conferences and post-game scrum and all those sorts of things. And it's been 16 years since then. And I've gotten a chance to cover the team here in Austin, watching hundreds of games over the course of that time, cover NHL games, write for the Hockey News. We have a group of writers here who write with me. It's not just me, some staff writers who also cover the team and its affiliates, whether that's the Dallas Stars or the Idaho Steelheads in the ECHL. It's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of great opportunities to talk to folks who I never would have expected to talk to, which, one I'm sure we'll talk about a bit later is my opportunity that I had a couple weeks ago to speak with Bruce Boudreau regarding the Bruce Boudreau Award that I and several other AHL media members just kicked off this past week. And it's given me a lot of great opportunities. And it's been a lot of fun to cover the team that's been very successful over the past 16 years they've been in the league.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool story of how you got started, man. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's completely unexpected. And if you had told me in college or whatever that I'd be working a job during the day and like have press credentials to the American Hockey League at night, it's I would have been completely flabbergasted. The people that I have in my phone and the people that I've had conversations with and the places I've been, um, me and as a kid would have been completely blown away to be able to be in those conversations. And it's one of those things you have to remember not to take it for granted and you still have to remember that it's privilege and it's really cool. And I tell my team that we have to act every day like we need to re-earn the right to be in the building, and not act like it's a privilege, not a right to be there. And so we try to comport ourselves in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, so let's get into the actual Texas Stars versus the Griffins. Let's quick talk about kind of last season and how you guys knocked us out of the playoffs and how you guys had such a great team. I mean, your guys' team had some studs on there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those guys who are coming back. There's a lot of those guys who've moved on. Probably one of the big names for everyone to circle that isn't there to circle anymore is Matej Blumel, who won the Willie Marshall Award in the AHL, most goals in the regular season, first team AHL All-Star. He moved on with an opportunity to try and play NHL minutes elsewhere with the Boston Bruins. Unfortunately, he got assigned to the P Bruins this week and actually did pass through waivers, which kind of surprised me and my staff a little bit. So he's gone as an offensive threat. Justin Ritskovian is probably going to make the Dallas Stars out of camp as well. He's currently here, but that's a salary cap move. If you look at the roster today, and your listeners are going to look at that and say, "Oh, Justin Ritskovian's back." Probably not for the whole season. He'll probably be up and down, back and forth as an injury fill-in for the Dallas Stars, and so he won't be a guy who probably won't play the Griffins this weekend. He'll probably be in Winnipeg with the Dallas Stars. But a lot of the guys have returned. Cameron Hughes, Cole Lind, who've gone to 3 straight Western Conference Finals with Coachella and then with Texas, are back. You've got some big defensive guys back like Kyle Capobianco. Alex Petrovic, who came back to play. He didn't play in the Griffins series because he was in Dallas, but he came back to play in the Abbotsford series when they lost in the Western Conference Final. He finally just stuck in Dallas, and so he won't be there. Another thing of interest for you guys as well, of course, former Griffin and Detroit Red Wing goalie Magnus Hellberg has moved on. He went over to Sweden, and now the net is really owned by Remy Poirier, who is officially the organizational number 3. He had a really great run in the playoffs last year, and that inspired a lot of confidence in his play. I was wondering over the summer whether the team would sign a third goaltender, sort of a veteran guy like a Hellberg, right, to act as that stand-in case Jake Ottinger or Casey DeSmith got hurt in Dallas. They didn't do that. Remy Poirier is your guy. He's the third guy if somebody gets injured. And the interesting thing will be that, of course, with back-to-back games, Remy will probably get the net on Friday. Who gets the net on Saturday, though, is obviously a challenge in the organization of whether Arno Tiefensee or Ben Cross stays in Texas or goes to Idaho. You guys obviously have dealt with that in the challenge in the past with a guy like Sebastian Cossa. Do you have him be a backup in the AHL and not play as much, or do you send him down to Toledo and he plays crazy numbers of minutes, but maybe against lower competition? That's the kind of organizational question that Dallas has with those two guys too.
Yeah, and what we did with Cossa, we definitely sent him down to Toledo. And when we sent him down to Toledo, he did amazing. And that same year, he got butchered a couple games in the AHL. He just wasn't ready. And, he sent down, he bulked up, and he came back to the AHL, and he's been a top 15 goalie both years. So it's really cool.
Dallas doesn't have as many blue chip goalie prospects broadly because obviously they have Jake Ottinger, and he's their guy. He's on an 8-year contract. He's not going anywhere. He's the one that they've picked. And so they've made an organizational choice to spend. They actually had a cap that they decided on internally. They're not going to pay the backup goaltender more than $1 million. And that's actually why they parted ways with Scott Wedgwood 2 years ago. And he moved on to the Nashville organization, then was eventually traded to Colorado. because he wanted. It sounds silly, but he wanted, I think it was 125, right? But they said we're not going to pay more than one. We have so much money locked up in Jake Ottinger. We're going to sign somebody. So they signed DeSmith at a 3-year, $1 million contract. But then in terms of guys behind Jake, maybe one of these guys pops, but nobody is a blue chip. You don't have, somebody like Kosa, right, in the organization who's that goalie of the future, because the goalie of the future is the goalie of now for the Dallas Stars.
Yep.
So they don't have as many of those goalies, manning the paint in the AHL and the ECHL.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting to hear. So basically, you're telling us when Poirier plays us this weekend, we're in for it, and then we're going to win the game he doesn't play.
Well, we'll see. Now, no one's ever seen Arno TFNC play a game in North America, like during the regular season. He played in preseason. Yeah, he played in the preseason. He played in the prospect games, also against Detroit, of course, that I got to go see in Frisco, and looked good. He's a big kid, like all goalies are nowadays, anyways. They always talk about, you got to adjust the angles and things for goalies in the smaller rink and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I'm interested to see if they decide to send him to the ECHL so he can get a lot of reps, and then maybe you just kind of send him back and forth between Boise and Austin to get him going. But it's an interesting organizational decision they'll have to make. There's a lot of practice time in the early calendar. Texas especially builds their calendar in a way that they don't have as many games at home during the fall. And they have these long stretches. If you look at Texas' schedule, they play Friday and Saturday, and then they don't play again until the next Friday and Saturday. They have 5 days off to, reset on systems. And the other thing to know is Texas doesn't have any preseason games. So when the puck drops on Friday against the Griffins, that'll be the first time this team has played organized hockey against another opponent. And that's an interesting challenge that Coach Peterson and his staff have definitely worked through, trying to build out a way to get the team in training camp up to game speed and those sort of game actions without being able to, they don't have San Antonio Rampage or the Houston Aeros or even the Oklahoma City Barons anymore to play against. They're kind of on an island, and they're not going to get on a plane to go play a preseason game. So it's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing when you don't have those games together. I mean, Griffins got together this week. They practiced, I believe it was Monday, Tuesday, and on the plane down to Texas they go. So it's like it's the first time together that the team's actually around. And yeah, it's like do your scrimmages, get what you can together as the team, and get on the road because you got a game to play. I don't know if people like necessarily want to see more preseason games out of the AHL, but I understand the concept of why it would be crucial to a team to build.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you got to think like you don't know what your roster is going to be. The NHL can take whoever shows up at training camp at the preseason can really take a job. I mean, here in Grand Rapids, we got 3 guys we thought we were going to have on our team: Axel Sandin Pellica, Michael Branson Nygaard, and Emmett Finney, all looking like they're making the Red Wings here, which is crazy because that's way more of a scramble for the coach Dan Watson to have to deal with. It's crazy.
Yep.
You mentioned Dan Watson there, and that's the other thing to think about too. So Toby Peterson, who's the bench boss now in Cedar Park here, it's his first year as a head coach, period, but also, of course, his first year here. The staff, Travis Morin and Max Fortunis, 2 longtime Texas Stars, as his assistant coaches, they also didn't have an opportunity in the preseason to learn how to work together as a staff. And in talking to Toby, he used the games in the prospect tournament against Detroit's prospects, where Dan Watson was on the other side of the bench, as practice for how they work together as a team. Who gets out the whiteboard in this situation, and who do we look to when this is happening on the ice? Who takes lead on this? Who takes lead on that? Because they knew they weren't going to have a preseason game, so they treated those 2 prospect games in Frisco like their preseason games as a coaching staff. And then we're able to use that so that, again, when the puck drops on Friday against Grand Rapids, they're not doing this for the first time. And it's good because obviously Toby was an AHL assistant coach under Jared Bednar in Cleveland. They won a Calder Cup there in 2016 when they were the Lake Erie Monsters. He's not unfamiliar with the AHL, but it's his first time being the head guy, and also first time working with these two guys in this capacity, which, fun thing to know, those three guys all won a Calder Cup in 2014 together as players. Additionally, Curtis McKenzie, who's the team captain,
cool.
was a rookie that year. And now he joked today at Media Day that this is his 71st season in the league, because it just feels like it's been forever. So interesting connection between the players and the bench staff.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another thing I want to mention real quick is you guys got Cross Hannes from the Grand Rapids Griffins. He was a second round pick a couple years back. He was a great player here. He just never took that next level. He's a hometown guy from Texas, so him going there to Texas, I'm hoping that kind of ignites a fire for him. You know, he always tended to play really good when we played Texas. It was like, especially if we were in Texas, he'd just like score and light it up.
He was home, man.
So I'm hoping he can take that energy and like take a step and be a top guy there.
Yeah, he was definitely one of those players that, like, wherever he goes, you hope he does well. He definitely was a fan favorite here in Grand Rapids too. So definitely wishing Cross Hannes the best of luck over there for Texas.
I think he, looking at the roster and what his resume looks like, I think he has a good shot to start the season on a PTO with Texas. Of course, you guys know in the AHL you could do PTOs, right, and have guys play. It's not possible in the NHL, right? But in the AHL, yeah, you can have a guy sign a PTO and see how he goes. I think it'd be really interesting to see how he performs this weekend if he's able to get a PTO and then play against his former club. That'll probably be great motivation. He'll probably, really want to turn on the Jets and show something against that team. But Texas does have, a good number of players who are returning from their previous rosters. So how does he work in there? The good thing to know, though, is Oscar Beck and Jamie Benn are both injured in Dallas. Those are two forwards who are supposed to be in their starting lineup. So, of course, that opens up opportunities for guys to move up. And that provides an opportunity for a guy like Cross Hannes to make his way and fill in the gap in the AHL when some of those guys go up. So if a Justin Ritzkovian or an Artu Huru or someone like that gets called up to play in Dallas, well, that opens up an opportunity for a guy like Cross, who's been there before, who's played AHL games, a lot of AHL games, and acquitted himself well in those opportunities to be, a guy who gets a job. And we'll see what happens after the PTO, if it turns into an SPC or whatever. But let's play the first game and see if he makes it there and how he performs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned Rakovian there. You think he is? I think you kind of mentioned it. You believe he's the number one player that's going to get called up first, most likely?
We have this challenge. So Ritzkovian won the Rookie of the Year last year from Texas, right? It's kind of crazy because Texas had two Rookie of the Year in a row. They had Logan Stankoven 2 years ago and then Justin Ritzkovian last year. And I can't vote for him, but I would have voted for him for sure if I could. Can't vote for your own players. That's the rule. Not allowed to vote for players that you cover. But I think he definitely earned it. He is a guy who fits a mold where initially when he came into the league in 2023, he was an AHL, amateur tryout because he was coming out of college, played at Northeastern. He's actually a kid from Quebec, but then decided to go into the U.S. high school system and then go to college after that. So he played, 4 years at Northeastern and then came out after his senior year. And he played, I think, the last 12 games down the stretch and then a couple more for Texas in the playoffs, all the games for Texas in the playoffs. I think they played 7 that year. He was instantly their number one center, which is pretty crazy for a guy coming out of college. And, it was mostly he was good on the dots, great face-off percentage, great defensive game. And I thought that was kind of what he was. And then I don't know what happened, but in 2024-25 last year, he turned it on offensively as well. Not only was he great defensively, first guy over the boards in the penalty kill, all that kind of stuff. he was also able to put the puck in the net. He was scoring on the power play. He was scoring even strength. He had, I think, he even had a shorty or two, right? He was all over the place. And that guy, surprised me, to be honest. He's the sort of guy who can crack an NHL roster because he has the skill set in his back pocket to be a bottom six forward, but when called upon, can elevate his game and score. And I think you guys probably know from seeing a lot of these types of guys develop.
Yep.
A guy like Justin Rutskovian has the potential to be a quad A player, right? He's really good in the AHL, but never quite good enough to translate their game into the NHL. You think about a guy like Travis Morin here in Texas. He was a great player at this level. He's got his jersey retired. He's going to be an AHL Hall of Famer one day. But his role was very much top six, power play, first line kind of guy. He was never able to get that opportunity in Dallas in the NHL. And he also didn't have the skill set to play a bottom six grindy type of role that was necessary at that time to play a bottom six role in the NHL. I think Rutskovian has the mixture of those things. It means he can claim a spot on the roster in Dallas and then earn the right to get more playing time with his play, that has that offensive edge to it. And in addition to like the more grindy defensive PK responsibility types of things that he can do, that we know he can do from just general performance in the AHL.
Yeah, very interesting. So what are some other guys do you think that could possibly get the call up to Dallas this year?
Yeah, I know Haru whooped us last year. R2 Haru put points on the board every time we played, it seemed like.
Yeah, R2 Haru is the guy on the list. I think the last three guys who were really in that consideration set on the forward side were Haru, Rutskovian, and then Adam Ernie, who Adam Ernie just earned himself a NHL contract today. They announced that at 10:30 this morning, 1 year, 2-way. I think it's a league minimum $775. But he's a guy who was seeking. He was on training camp PTO, and oftentimes those don't turn into anything. But this particular one, he was able to make his way and be one of the last guys out of camp. So I don't know if he'll ever end up in Texas this year. Sounds like he might, if he makes it through waivers at some point, if everybody's healthy. So he could be a guy that we see down here at some point. But I think Haru is definitely one of those guys. On the defensive side, you look at one of the last cuts there, which is Vladislav Kolyachonok, who Dallas acquired as part of the trade with Matt Dumba in Pittsburgh. So they traded Matt Dumba to Pittsburgh, mostly as a salary dump, if we're being honest, and acquired Kolyachonok. He was actually acquired on waivers by Pittsburgh last year. And so there was a bit of a risk when they decided to send him down through waivers instead of holding 8 defensemen. Alex Petrovic, who was the 7th defenseman, made it and was able to stay in the NHL this season. So Kolyachonok, I think, has the opportunity to bounce back and forth a little bit of waiver risk there, obviously, but get 10 games or 30 days after you go through waivers once. So he could go up and go back down here in the beginning just to bounce back and forth a little bit. But he's one guy who is new on the list and could be one of those top call-ups on the defensive side.
Gotcha. You want to talk about the stable veterans that you got over there? Some of the guys that have been around for, maybe 2 years or so. Some of the guys that just are loyal and deserving of the mention.
The top guy you got to talk about, and anybody in the AHL who's played in the Western Conference is going to be familiar with, is obviously Curtis McKenzie. Yep. He started on the team in 2013-14 as a rookie. He played here until 2018. He went away for a couple of years, played with Chicago, played with Utica, and then came back. And Toby Peterson was talking about him today and in the media scrum, just how he knew him when he was a kid fresh out of college. He played at Miami of Ohio, and now he's got 3 kids and a wife and a life that extends beyond hockey, and it's just a different vibe. He continues to put the puck in the net, score, go to the gritty areas. His his Twitter handle for the longest time was Muckbro because he liked to muck it up in the corners. Like that was the game that he plays, right? He's going to still be on the power play, I imagine, this year, and all those sorts of things. The mentorship that he provides is just as valuable as the play that he actually puts in on the ice. That's, I always have to give the flowers to Curtis McKenzie anytime talking about veteran players. Other guys, I mentioned Cameron Hughes and Cole Lind. Those are two guys who came over from Coachella 2 years ago, decided to re-up again. Great veteran presence from both of them. Opponents hate playing against them. I think Milwaukee in particular really hates playing against both of those players. Cole Lind especially gets under guys' skin, but then can also score in a big way. And then on the defensive side, Kyle Capobianco is a guy who's been around in the league for a while. He's Eddie Shore winner, the defenseman of the year previously when he was in Manitoba. Just a strong offensive defenseman type of player who can contribute a lot to both the veteran leadership, but also score and put the puck in the net and be a leader on the power play. I imagine he'll be manning one of the power play units when the season starts.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good to know.
All right, so last year, let's kind of get into the Griffins versus Texas, kind of talk about how they did last year versus each other. You guys swept us in the playoffs.
You don't need to talk about that, all right?
In a dramatic fashion. The third game went into double overtime, and you guys ended us. It was quite the event.
It was close to being the longest game in Texas Stars history. I don't know if you guys have had a longer one in Griffins history, but Texas hasn't gone much deeper than 2 OT. They had one against Milwaukee, I believe, several years ago that went to 2 OT as well and was close. And then, Cameron Hughes stepped up and decided to make himself known. And that was the end of it. Honestly, guys, I was in the building for that game, and I'm so happy I was. As a media member, we don't have rooting interest, of course, and you can't cheer in the press box and those sorts of things. But the atmosphere, the electricity of the building, the thing that I think people forget in it is Cameron Hughes had a fight in a second period, early third period, as I'm recalling it, and Texas was down 4-1 at that moment.
Yeah,
right, and like
Danielson.
yeah, and as he was going to the penalty box, I don't know if they showed it on the broadcast or not. He's doing the like raise your arms, like everybody get excited type of thing. And you think back on that, you're like, man, if they had let's say they lost that game 6-2, that move right there looks not great, right? In retrospect. But it turns out that moment was the inciting moment to start the comeback because they scored 4-2.
Yeah.
Hughes scored a power play goal 4-3. They tied it 4-4 late, and then 2 OT, Hughes comes in and scores to end the series.
Yeah, I believe he pickpocketed Volinder behind the net and made the play out front and everything.
Yeah,
and
it was an incredible sequence, right? And there's a very short list of more electric games at the Cedar Park Center. It's top 3. It's that one. That one is probably in there. There was a game when Texas was down 2-0 against Toronto in a game 7 when they won the cup, and they came back and won 6-2. Probably the best game I've ever seen in person. But that game was incredible to watch. The fans were into it. The team was driving excitement on the ice. It was a really fun game to watch. I know for you guys' perspective, not so much, but as a neutral observer, as a Texas Stars fan, it was just good, fun hockey, and it showed what the AHL can be when it's at its most exciting and at its peak level of performance.
Yeah, because like you said, it might not have been our desired outcome, but man, it was a heck of a hockey game, and it's one we'll never forget. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I knew it was over when when we had 2 home games and we lost both of those and we had to go to Texas for 3, I was like, yep.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the nails pretty much in the coffin at this point. And then
It's a hard league where, you know, the 2-3 structure is just brutal,
It
right?
is.
It's 2-3 is brutal, and you know, I don't think anybody will ever do the opt out. You know, you can opt out, right? As you guys have heard about that, but like as an organization, you can choose to start at home and give up the extra home game if you want. And as far as I know, it's happened one time. The Manchester Monarchs chose to start at home against the Norfolk Admirals back in the 2014 season, 2014 playoffs. And the Manchester Monarchs had been a wagon all year. But then they came up against the Norfolk Admirals, who had oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the name of the goalie who they had, who just like shut him out, and they had no room to maneuver because they had already played their home games, and then they were going to Norfolk with, you know, down 2-0. And
Yeah.
so what do you do at that point? You have no room to maneuver. You're completely on your back foot because you're playing away. I don't think anybody will ever make that decision again in the AHL, because that, like, the first year it was possible, that happened, and somebody just completely, you
Didn't go
know,
well.
screwed it up, and I don't think it'll happen ever again.
I hear ya.
So the regular season record was 3-3-2-0 in favor of the Griffins for the regular season matchup. So Griffins had a little bit of an edge in the regular season, but obviously that didn't matter in the playoffs. Texas did also finish second in the division when the Griffins finished third, and they had like 9 more points than the Griffins. So very interesting.
Texas tried down to the end to get that last spot, and the top spot. I really feel like the division, you know, the past 3 years, it's been Milwaukee and Texas, right? Just the absolute battle of wills, trying to get them. And I, you know, I don't think anybody would ever say this on the record, but after Texas beat Milwaukee, it was like they were playing with house money. Like that had been their albatross for the last several seasons, where they got beat by Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, it seemed like they had every advantage. Texas had every advantage. They would be up in the series, and then they were up 2-0, for example, heading back to Milwaukee, to the point of the 2-3 split. They were up 2-0, won both their home games, and they dropped all 3 in Milwaukee, back in 2023.
That's
right?
rough.
And that's just like, all you have to do is win one game. You got to win one game, and they couldn't do it. And you know, Milwaukee's a well-coached team. A lot of respect for Carl Taylor, Greg Rallo, Scott Ford. Like, those guys are smart, good coaches. But Texas really felt like they had a better team, especially that first year that they played them in 23. They thought they were going all the way, to be honest. So getting over Milwaukee this past season in Game 5 was just such a weight off the team that it almost didn't matter what happened against Abbotsford. The fact that they took Abbotsford to 6 with Shelovs in net and all that NHL experience that they had behind them, the fact that they took them to 6 games was a huge win for the organization.
Absolutely. It's a shame they couldn't get the cup, but there's this year, maybe. Never know.
You never know.
So where would you kind of rank? How do you think the Stars are going to do this year if you had to make a prediction?
I mean, I think they're a playoff team with how much they have coming back. I think if Remy Poirier continues what he's done in net, he'll continue to be strong in that position. There's a lot of goals that came off the board or are coming off the board. A lot of offense with Blumel leaving, with Ritzkovian being up, potentially up and down to Dallas. There's a lot of folks that need to be replaced in terms of their contributions. It'll also be really interesting to see how the systems change and how the team's coaching changes from Neil Graham, who's now an assistant coach with the Dallas Stars, to Toby Peterson. And there's a lot of stuff that needs to gel and needs to gel quickly. You only got, there's 72 games, but you could be out of it really quick. That's what they say, right? You don't win the cup in November, but you can definitely lose it.
Well, Griffins were leading the whole division halfway through the season last year, and we just fell right off. Started tacking on losing streaks, and it can happen. I mean,
the Red Wings called a bunch of guys up. That's the thing with the AHL. You can be doing great, and then the NHL team gets some injuries, and it's like, well, sorry, farm team. And
it's always been that way. I talked to or the trade deadline, right? I talked to former Texas Stars coach who is now with the Oshawa Generals, Derek Laxdal, and he believes firmly, and he's coached it. He hasn't been a head coach at the NHL level, but he's been at the ECHL, the AHL, the NHL, the OHL, and the Dub. He believes AHL is the hardest level to coach. That's just his firm belief. It is the hardest level to coach because of what you just mentioned, Connor. You have no idea what your roster is going to look like day to day, right? Big team could execute a trade that they think is going to get them closer to the cup, but in order to do that, they threw in a couple prospects who are your top scorers. Okay, those guys are gone. Now what? Now you have to replace them with ECHL PTO guys that you don't know. Maybe they weren't in your camp, and you got to teach those guys systems. And if somebody gets an injury, you got to call a guy up from the ECHL as well. I mean, just the up down, I don't know what my roster is going to look like day by day. The dual mandate that the AHL has around, you got to develop guys, but also you got to win games. This isn't minor league baseball, right? You can't have a 150 record, right? You can't win 15 games and lose 100. That's not what we do here. It's important to win, to fill the building, especially with like the Griffins, independent ownership. They're not getting bankrolled by the Detroit Red Wings in the same way that a minor league baseball team is getting bankrolled by the Major League Baseball team. So that's a big thing to think about in terms of the dual mandate of an AHL coach. Yeah, they need to develop players who are going to help the Red Wings, the Stars win a Stanley Cup and make the playoffs. But they also have to win games against Rockford on a random Tuesday night in February.
It gets interesting.
It's a hard game for an AHL head coach and an AHL GM. I mean, Sean Horkoff and Scott White have very difficult jobs balancing the AHL roster and the NHL roster and the needs of both. It's not a job that I envy in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And it's always like, you can be down here as like an AHL perspective, your top guy, they announce a call up, all the NHL fans are happy. Your top rookie's coming up to play, he's making his debut, but like in your heart, you're like, well, we're screwed.
Yeah.
I go back to the summer of 2013, I think it was. Yeah, summer of 2013, when the Stars acquired Tyler Seguin. And the main piece of that trade going back the other way was Louis Eriksson. He went to the Bruins from Dallas.
Yeah.
But Texas Stars fans will tell you the main piece of that trade was a guy named Matt Frazier, who had been like 2 goals short of winning the goal scoring trophy in the AHL and basically drove their offense on the power play in the 2012-2013 season. Now, that doesn't matter to the Dallas Stars, right? If they're going to acquire a guy like Tyler Seguin and Matt Frazier is part of the asking price, sure, why not? But for a Texas Stars fan who, season tickets, you want to see that team win, you want to get, they give away chicken wings, they give away coupons for chicken wings when they score on the power play down here. You want to get chicken wings, right? You want Matt Frazier on your power play. And that's part of the organizational challenge of being a fan in the AHL. That the master is somewhere else, right? The master is the NHL team. And we're lucky as, Griffins fans and Stars media that the relationship between the teams, they're both geographically close and like a fan base. Generally, somebody who's a Texas Stars fan is also a Dallas Stars fan. Often, somebody who's a Griffins fan is probably also a Detroit fan generally. But there are these crazy fandoms where people, I used to sit next to a guy at the rink who wore a Penguins jersey to every single game. He was a Texas Stars fan, but he wore a Pittsburgh Penguin jersey, so he didn't give a rip when a guy got called up to the Dallas Stars about cheering for him. He was pissed that guy wasn't wearing a Texas Stars jersey and scoring goals
Yeah.
for the Texas Stars.
Yeah.
So it's really complicated to be an AHL fan. There's a lot of different ways to be an AHL fan. And it's certainly a complicated thing, not only, like we said, for coaches and GMs, but also just for the fans. Like, who do you cheer for? How do you cheer? Are you happy when they go to the Stars? Are you not happy when they go to the Stars? It's a lot of stuff to think about, for sure.
And you also got to think about, us, the Griffins and Stars, it's the same area pretty much. You got the Detroit and Grand Rapids, and then you got Austin and Dallas pretty much. And it's like
couple hour drive, maybe.
Look at Chicago. They got to go to Carolina.
Yep.
Carolina fans probably aren't really that much of Chicago Wolves fans, and the Wolves fans don't really care about the Hurricanes,
Well, and it's interesting too. How much do you lean into marketing the prospect aspect of your team versus the, we're a good team versus stuff like promo nights, right? Talking to the team president down here and who also runs the rink, and not just the rink in terms of the hockey events, but also when they bring in concerts and things like that. The things that bring people into the building. I actually wrote about this in the book that I wrote called We Win Here, in one of the essays, talking about the fact that, the hockey doesn't actually matter to most of the fans. Which, obviously we're here talking about the intricacies of all of this stuff. But when you think about, most of the people who fill the building are there because it's a fun thing to do on a Friday night. The beer is cheap and cold. They got a bunch of friends who are going to go. Here in Texas, they do a great job with promo nights, and they actually do a great job doing digital ad promotion, where what they'll do is, let's say this weekend they've got Jurassic Park night, right? And they're going to be wearing special, Jurassic Park jerseys, and they've got dinosaurs walking around the concourse. They'll go and do Facebook ad buys for people who are fans of those movies and advertise to them a Texas Stars game. And maybe somebody who never would have gone to a Texas Stars game will come that night and become a fan. And those people don't give any, shits about whether or not the Chicago Wolves are ahead of the Rockford Ice Hogs in the standings, and whether or not this guy is a prospect for Carolina or for the Blackhawks or whatever. They don't care. They want to see guys score goals. Most of them probably want to see somebody get punched in the face, which is a whole separate conversation that we can have, right? And that's what makes the game great and makes the experience great. Is it would be that much fun if only the people who could name all the teams in the division were filling the building, right? There'd be 500 of us, and we'd just be sitting there, politely clapping. You want to have the crazy people who are there just for the night to have fun and to have an exciting night out with their family, with their friends, with their college buddies, whatever it might be. And so that's the weird duality of the AHL.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well said too. I mean, there's a lot of crazy promotions that we've had Friends Night and Grateful Dead Night and all sorts of different things that draw
Star Wars Night every year.
Yep.
We actually had a really cool Jurassic Park night. I think it was
last year.
They had a giveaway jersey. Got the jersey hanging up on my wall.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
The Star Wars Night thing is really interesting too, in case you guys didn't know, and your listeners. That is a league tie-in where the league actually has an agreement with Lucasfilm. And one of the cool things about that is every jersey that's created. So if the Grand Rapids team does a Star Wars Night, or Texas has done Victory Green Squadron several times as their sort of jersey tie-in. Lucasfilm asks that you send one of the jerseys, or at least one of the jerseys, to them. And I don't know where they keep them, in some vault somewhere, but they have to have certain names on the nameplate. So somewhere there is a Victory Green Squadron jersey with Skywalker as the nameplate, right?
Awesome.
And there's probably the same thing. There's probably a Griffin Star Wars jersey with Skywalker, or whatever you want, Solo, right? On the back of it, right? And it's kind of cool, but like that's the league tie-in, and that's why we've seen these Star Wars nights proliferate over the past maybe 5 years or so. Is that there's actually an agreement between the league and Lucasfilm to do the licensing and to make that available for the entire league.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never thought that's crazy. So yeah, we don't want to take too much of your time, man. I know it's evening and probably at the end of the day trying to get at home from work. So real quick,
Yeah.
so do you think the Griffins are gonna come with some revenge, hate, or do you think Cross Hannes is gonna steal the show? Who do you think's gonna win?
I always think first games are like feeling out games, right? And these two teams have played each other for so long. And one thing I did want to call out, speaking of the Griffins, of course, is the recent mention of the Bruce Boudreau Award, which I think everything that we just spoke about, in terms of the AHL and the difficulty of like how hard it is to be a fan in this league and the recognition that these players deserve and these teams deserve. I talked to a group of other media members and came up with the idea to recognize players who are playing in the AHL without NHL contracts, because you can be signed just to be a Texas Stars player or just to be a Grand Rapids Griffins player, and for a lot of these guys, that's the peak of their career. And I mean, heck, if I were a 5-year-old hockey player, that'd be a pretty good career peak if we were actually to think about it in terms of where you end up playing professional hockey for a living. A lot of those guys, don't do it for the money and those sorts of things. They do it for the love of the game, to provide mentorship. And we felt that it was a great opportunity to recognize some of those players, because, rightfully the NHL and the AHL like to promote prospects. And that makes a lot of sense because they're the future. But a lot of these guys make the league what it is. And in talking to the group, we decided, who would we name this award after if we were to make this a thing? And somebody said, well, Bruce Boudreau would be ideal, but I don't know if we could talk to him. And I reached out to somebody who knew him, and they said, yeah, he's great on text. They sent me his number. It's like, oh God, what do I do with this?
Oh, you're like, what's up, man?
On the spot.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So they hit him up sometime. I was like, oh, geez. And so I texted him the idea. And I was like, hey, you don't know me from anybody, but I'm Steven, and I cover the Texas Stars. And I feel like this is a great way to recognize these types of players who put their heart and soul into this league. And we'd love to name the award after you. And the exact quote was, I'm speechless. I'd love to be honored by this. I would be honored to be part of this.
Awesome.
And so the first winner of the award, which we announced last week, was Dominic Shine. And we've known Dominic for a long time as Texas Stars media and as league media. He's been since 2017 in the league. He's not, unsigned, undrafted guy coming into the Griffins organization, just the Griffins organization, right? Signed an ATO, was around when you guys won the cup in 17, and then came back and continued to come back to Grand Rapids because he's a guy. He's a Uper, right? He's from Michigan. He loves Michigan. He loves being part of the team. He loves the city of Grand Rapids. Like part of the the quotes that we got about the kind of tongue-in-cheek phrase is he's the mayor of Grand Rapids, right? He loves to show the new guys around the city and let them know about what it's like to be a pro hockey player in this city and in this league. And he's been a great ambassador for the team and the league broadly. And I think one of the great reasons why we wanted to recognize him with the award as well is, he's sort of the ideal player to recognize in that first moment because he got the thing that they're all striving for. On January 27th, he got an NHL contract. And I'm sure you guys have read the story, but in case any of your listeners haven't heard it, he was out buying skates for his son's first pair of skates.
He's about to retire.
When he got the call, right? He got that call from his son, from Sean Horkoff while he was out with his son getting that first pair of skates. And that, like, what a great full circle moment to be able to say, like, I was passing this thing on to my child, this thing that I love, this thing that's given me so much joy in my life. And then I got the call to do the thing that I've always wanted, since I was his age, to play in the NHL. And he played in the NHL that night.
And that,
So
just
he's a
the
great
coolest.
kid to honor.
Yeah. So also apparently after the season before last season, he was actually thinking about retiring,
No kidding.
and he was literally about to retire, and his wife talked to him and everything, and pretty much said, you're gonna want your kid to be seeing you play some games so we can remember it. And he's like, yeah, I should. And he comes in, and then he had the best year he's ever had. He was leading the team with points for most of the season until he got that call up to Detroit, and then he played really good in Detroit. And yeah, I think it's just an amazing story from the beginning. Spent his whole career here, working all that time, to the point where you think you're not ever going to make it, and then you make it.
And I think Dominic Shine is just one example. We can all think across the league of there's a guy on every team who's just a heart and soul guy who represents the team well, isn't on an NHL deal, but makes the NHL team better and more successful because of their presence on the AHL team. They provide mentorship to the young guys. They show them how to be a pro, develop pro habits, as the coaches always like to say. I think about Curtis McKenzie, right? Yep. Also in the division, guy like Cal O'Reilly, right? Yeah. Who just hit 1,000 games. Guys like that are invaluable to an AHL franchise, AHL roster, and eventually to an NHL team. And not all of them get NHL contracts later on in their career. Sometimes they roll off NHL contracts, but they decide to continue playing. And they could go to Europe, right? You probably make a decent amount of money going to Europe, especially some of the guaranteed contracts in Germany and Switzerland. Like there's some great opportunities over there. But they decide to stay here in the American League. And that is something that I think deserves recognition. And we're very proud and happy to have the opportunity to recognize Dominic and also to have a chance to talk with him and hear his story and then share his story. So very excited to get that award going. And we're looking forward to another year watching some great AHL players, drive the success of their team and then recognize those players again come April.
Yeah.
And thanks for doing that, Bruce Boudreau
awesome.
Award. That is really cool. And yeah, like you said, these underappreciated players deserve it. So thank you for getting that going.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been great to take a survey of the league and understand and see that there are these guys in every single market, and there are fans who love those players in every single market and believe that they are the absolute heartbeat of their team. Because prospects may come and go, but there are guys like Shine, like McKenzie, like O'Reilly that we mentioned who just are there year after year and provide that continuity to the team and to their fan base, and drive their success on and off the ice, honestly.
Well, Connor, got anything else?
I don't. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Steven?
Well, I'm just looking forward to another year in the AHL, another year here. And of course, if you guys want to check out what me and my team write, we're at 100 Degree Hockey, 100degreehockey.com. You can find us on Twitter and Blue Sky as well. I am not hard to reach. These guys reached out to me over Twitter on direct message. You guys it was easy to find me. If you have any questions, you can always direct message me or shoot me an email or anything like that. If you ever happen to be in the arena and you want to say hi, please let me know you're there. I love meeting folks who've made a trip, or even folks who maybe live here who just happen to be displaced Detroit fans. We have a lot of those down here in Austin. So if you ever want to say hi, just let me know. I'm in the building. You could pick my brain on stuff, and I can tell you 20 different stories to fill the whole intermission, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you ever around to Grand Rapids too, man, we got a pair of tickets for you if you're ever in the area and you want to go to a game.
That sounds great.
And we got you, man.
Appreciate it. That's excellent. Well, yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Stephen Meserve, for coming on the show with us. Really appreciate your very detailed analysis of the Texas Stars. It was really great to talk about another viewpoint on hockey, this one coming from Texas and 100 Degree Hockey. So thank you, Stephen Meserve.
And thanks for that Boudreau Award. Dominic Shine winning that this year for the first one. That's amazing. Going to be a great season with Dominic Shine. So
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephen, very much.
Thanks.
He also taught us a couple things about how to move our podcast to the next level a bit. So we really thank you, Stephen, for that.
Yeah. So I appreciate everything. And good luck to the Texas Stars this season. And that should get us into the penalty box.
Welcome to the penalty box. This is the final segment of every episode. We like to make it fun, end it on a fun note, and step out of hockey. So we picked the biggest idiot of the week into a penalty box for a 2-minute minor, 4-minute double minor, 5-minute major, or a game misconduct. Kyle, who are you throwing into the penalty box this week?
The penalty box is full over in Florida and Tampa Bay. That matchup, a preseason matchup. These guys are stacking the penalty boxes, so I think we got to give them a mention here. Honestly, if you guys want to make that big of an impact, do it in the regular season. Don't do it in a preseason game that's not going to get as much attention. So I'm throwing both clubs in the box, each one of them getting a 2-minute minor here.
Yeah, let's just injure all our star players.
Yeah, for real. I don't understand
Let's do it. I'm
why
all
we
for
would do
it.
that. And I get like people are like Florida Panthers. They deserve it. They deserve people to come run at them like that. Well, because that's what they do to other teams. But do you really want to risk all your players doing this in a preseason matchup? Like, what do you do? Draw up all the goons just for this one game?
Yep, they had to get the rookies in there too. Welcome, like first preseason game. They're like, "Welcome to the NHL, boys." Send them out there. Just go beat up Brad Marchand now.
Oh man, so it really was something. That's for sure. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, so 2-minute minor for both of those teams. Have fun in the box. So who I'm throwing into the box? I am throwing Mark Sanchez, former quarterback in the NFL. So apparently he was at this bar and he was very intoxicated on something to the point where he's out in the alleyway doing wind sprints back and forth. Sees a guy in a grease truck, a guy in a truck coming to unload grease from the restaurant, tells him to move. He doesn't move. He rips him out of the car and beats him. And then I guess the guy in the was getting beat started stabbing him because he thought he was going to kill him. Not good. So Mark Sanchez admitted to the ER, and then after they knew he was going to live, he was sent to jail, arrested for attempted murder, trying to beat this guy.
That's wild.
So yeah, that's a game misconduct. You're going to be destroyed. You destroyed your life over one night.
That is insane.
Sounds like something Kenny Powers would do, honestly.
That's insane, dude. That's oh my gosh.
So
Mark Sanchez, old Jets, the butt fumble guy, right?
Yep, that guy.
Dang.
Yeah, he's going to be facing some time. So, yep, have fun in the box, Mark Sanchez. All right, that should wrap up this episode of the Griffins Pipeline Podcast. Thank you for listening. Give us 5-star reviews. Don't miss the games. Catch them on Flow TV, and then go to griffinshockey.com and get your tickets for the home opener, October 17th, and the day after, October 18th. So we'll see you out there. Go Griffins.
Yeah, have a happy 30th season, everybody. Go Griffins.
Thank you for listening to the Griffins Pipeline Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star review. We are part of the Hockey Podcast Network. We are not partnered with the Grand Rapids Griffins, Detroit Red Wings, or Toledo Walleye. We are not experts. We are just die-hard fans looking to make a community with others alike. Let's go Griffins Nation. Join the fun, like, and follow us on Facebook and X, or call into the show and have your opinion heard 1-616-319-1175. Thank you. Grand Rapids Griffins, Toledo Walleye, and Detroit Red Wings. Players, coaches, websites, and social media. Thank you AHL.com, NHL.com, ETL.com, EliteProspects.com, and anyone else putting out information on the teams. Until next time, go Griffins. Go Red Wings, go Walleye.